Hello Wargamers, I'm Invasive Ramnus, and today I'm going to be talking about the Hammerhead as a heavy support option for the new Tau Empire Codex. Today I'm joined by Mia the Cat, an avid Wargamer herself, and together we're going to discuss the pros and cons of the different loadouts and how you might want to use the Hammerhead in your army. So before we get started, I just want to say thanks for watching. If you like the video, I think you know what to do. Let me know what you think of the Hammerhead in the comments below, and of course please subscribe, it helps out a lot. Alright, so as a whole, the Hammerhead, still a good option. A lot of people say that vehicles are worse than 6th edition, and in a lot of ways that's true, but the Hammerhead is still an asset to the Empire, and there are still several ways that you can field it that are going to benefit you in most games. It did benefit from a points reduction. It's the only source of strength 10 rail, and the other option, the ion cannon, is also very strong as well. So, of course, they do suffer from some of the same vehicle disadvantages that all vehicles face, i.e. hull points and being able to be glanced to death and things like that. But they are still a good part of the army. So to break it down a little bit, let's look at each of these options individually and discuss how you might want to run it in your army. Alright, so you have a lot of different options with the Hammerhead, and of course the big one is what gun should you take? And of your two options, you have the Railhead and the Ion Head, that, like I showed you just a second ago. But let's start off with the Railgun. So it's the only strength 10 that you can have in your army now. You used to be able to get on broadsides, now you can only get it on this guy. This big old honking gun is only strength 10. And it still has the two different options. You can either fire it as a single shot, which is strength 10 AP1, or you can fire it as a large blast, but now you have to pay 5 points in order to have that option. So as a whole, it's still good for anti-tank. That strength 10 shot is going to do a lot against lighter vehicles and have a really good shot at doing something against heavier vehicles. And then if you don't need that option, you can switch to the submunition. So if you were to use a railgun, I would definitely say that it would be worth it to always pay the 5 points to have that submunition option. And yeah, but really, if you're using this for anti-tank, I think there might be better options, really. Like using fusion blasters are probably a more points efficient way to be taking out heavily armored vehicles as opposed to a Hammerhead, which suffers those disadvantages from being a vehicle but also only has one shot. So you're paying basically 125 points for one shot a turn, whereas if you kit out a crisis suit with a fusion blaster or any of the other options you have, you're paying a lot less per potentially dead vehicle. The Railhead used to be the standard go-to option, and now I think it's a lot weaker than it used to be, and for a lot of reasons I think people are going to be switching more to the Ion Head, pictured here. Let's see, can we get that focus a little bit? Yeah, the base is not that great. Alright, but the Ion Cannon has two firing modes just because it's an ion weapon, and you don't have to pay extra for having the blast option. The standard firing option is strength 7 AP 3 heavy 3, and then if you overcharge it, it becomes strength 8 AP 3 large blast with gets hot. So basically how get hot works for vehicles is, if seeing as it's a blast weapon, you have to roll a die, and if you get a 1, then it gets hot. On a consequent roll of like a 1, 2, or 3, then it suffers a hull point loss. So it's not the end of the world. It's not like having your little Space Marine blow up with a plasma gun. Of course, Hammerhead's a lot more points than a lone Space Marine, but the chances of something actually happening with getting hot is pretty low. Yeah, so the ion cannon is great for taking out monstrous creatures, taking out large units of marine equivalents, or really anything. It's a really well-rounded option just because of that ability to switch between the 3 strength 7 shots and the large strength 8 blast. in the several games that I played since the new Codex came out, it's always been a star unit in my army, just because that blast is so devastating. Yeah, so if I were to choose between taking one railgun or one ion cannon, I would take the ion cannon. And that's largely just due to the accuracy issues with the railgun and the versatility that's inherent in the ion cannon. So if we're talking about secondary weapons, then you have a couple options as well, because the Hammerhead comes standard with gun drones, but let's face it, no one's going to take gun drones on a Hammerhead. So really it's between these guys, the smart missile systems or the burst cannons. And unlike before, these burst cannons are now twin linked. In the previous edition they acted independently, and so what you saw was a lot of Hammerheads kit out with the railgun and then 2 burst cannons, which gave you 6 shots at the time. Now they give you 4 shots, but they're twin linked instead of independent, so you still only get 4 shots. The smart missile system, on the other hand, hasn't really changed. It's still strength 5, AP 5, just like the burst cannon. You get 4, but it has a farther range. It's now 30 inches. And it has the homing special rule, which means that you don't have to have line of sight to fire it. And it also ignores cover. So in a lot of ways, the smart missile system is just plain better than the burst cannons. There's really no reason to take the burst cannons, and there's no reason to take gun drones, so your default option is going to be taking smart missile systems. The other options that you have are seeker missiles. You could take seeker missiles, but generally not. If you want to do seeker missiles, you probably are just going to be taking a Skyray instead. It's not, these guys are cheaper than they were before, but they're still relatively points intensive, and you don't really want to be putting more seeker missiles, more weapons and stuff on them than you need to. So seeker missiles probably not. As far as vehicle support systems, there's a few that you are probably always going to want to take. You're going to want to take the Black Sun filter. It's 1 point, allows you to have night fighting. That could be a really good start to the game if it's night fighting at the beginning of the game and you get to destroy something early on. Or it could be something that really clinches a win at the end of the game if you have night fighting later on. So having night vision on something as powerful as a tank is really important, and for 1 point, why not? The other thing you're probably always going to want is the disruption pod. Now, the disruption pod got a points increase. Now it's 15 points, and it only adds 1 to your cover save, but it adds it at all ranges and all times. So that's a little bit of give and take with the new Codex, but it's still something that you should take, at least on these guys, because they are an investment and you want them to survive. So I would take a disruption pod and then try to keep them behind cover so they have at least a 4 up at all times, if not a 3 up. And so disruption pod and Black Sun filter are the 2 things that you're always going to want to take. The other upgrade systems, they're very appealing. I can see on like a first read through, I guess I can see why people would want to take them. They're just not probably going to contribute that much to your success with this unit. You should be able to use it effectively without having to take those extra points and take those extra options and using the points on them. So I think this is probably a good way to run it. Ion cannon, smart missile system, disruption pod, Black Sun filter. That's probably all you need. So of course there's one other option that you can have with these guys, and that's to upgrade it to the Longstrike special character. And basically what he does is he has a special battle suit, which isn't really a battle suit, it's just like a pilot suit, but that allows him to to fire Overwatch and contribute to supporting fire, and it also gives him a black sun filter. So those are nice things to have, especially being able to fire Overwatch with a tank is great. It's pretty darn cool. Just thinking about somebody charging this and that just, you know, so that can be an effective deterrent against being, or effective deterrent against charges against your vehicle. And then Longstrike himself also has ballistic skill 5, so these are all great things to have, but he's 45 points, which is effectively the same as another 4-man unit of Pathfinders or something else. And so if we're thinking about the points economy here, the 45 points is 4 marker light shots, which translates generally into 2 statistical marker lights. And for that you could upgrade any Hammerhead you want to ballistic skill 5, plus give another unit +1 to their ballistic skill. And you can use that, you know, whenever you fire marker lights. And they don't suffer the same penalties as vehicles do. You're not going to kill them with 1 strength 10 shot, like you might blow up a vehicle. And so for that reason, I generally don't think that Longstrike is necessary. He can be something that you might want to take. Like he's probably better for a Railhead, just because you're going to want that increased accuracy more so when you're firing just 1 shot as opposed to a template that you're going to be shooting with the Ion Head. But as a whole, he's not essential and not something that you must take. It's really one of those options that you can take if you want to, but you shouldn't feel like it's going to make or break your list. Alright, so thanks for watching. Again, if you like the video, like it, let me know what you think in the comments below, and please subscribe. Thanks for watching. Vehicles aren't as good as 6, and in a lot of ways that's true, but the Hammerhead is still an asset to the Tau Empire. It's the only source of strength 10. Seriously, okay. Strength 10 railgun shots.